Okay, this is the video lecture on the dramatic genres that can be discussed as contexts when you are writing about the importance of being earnest. Remember, for this text, this is the only sort of additional assessment objective you need. You don't need interpretations and you don't need comparisons. Okay, so one of the genres that Wilde uses in a mocking way is not a genre we're familiar with today, but was very popular in 19th century Europe, actually, and it's called the well-made play. And these are plays that Wilde had written before The Importance of Being Earnest. His three previous plays could all have been described as part of this genre. So although they had some comedy in them, they actually had quite a bit of seriousness and melodrama, and they followed this pattern. So the well-made play uses the past as a kind of time bomb, and it's ticking under the surface conventionality of the present of the play. There's going to be an explosion towards the end of the play, and then a subsequent reassembling of the social fabric. So if you think about that way you often draw the drama, the dramatic action of a play, you start from here and you build up to the climax, and then a little bit of come down at the end, not all the way back down again. And that bit at the climax will be this explosion of the past into the present, often driven by a woman with a past. And in 19th century Europe, that past, for a woman to have a past, that means some sort of sexual indiscretion. Doesn't have to be. Some of them are driven by men with a past. Wilde's play, An Ideal Husband, it's the husband who has done a shameful thing in his past, and that's not a sexual indiscretion, it's taking a bribe. These plays carefully organised to keep the audience in a state of suspense up to this final denouement. And the way these plays were structured, the well-made play was structured, that the background information, the sort of plot information you needed about the characters and the situation, which is called exposition, would be given directly in the first act through question and answer. So one character would ask questions and the other person would answer those questions, and that would give us all the background we need to understand what's going on. The way these plays are so exciting and why they're called well-made is the way the action hurries from one crisis to the next. Coincidence comes in to help that process, and suspense is generated because the audience knows that a secret from the protagonist's past is going to disrupt events in the present, and that secret often takes the form of a physical prop. So the picture here is of a letter, it could be a piece of jewellery. One of Wilde's plays before Earnest is called Lady Windermere's Fan, and that prop, the fan, plays a really important part in revealing secrets. The task that if you're a present first year, you've done this task, but if you're a second year, this would be a good revision thing to do, because Wilde's play has been described as a burlesque insofar as it makes gentle fun of the well-made play. So you could think about examples for each of the features we've just mentioned. What's the prop, or what are the key props in The Importance of Being Earnest? When do we get those question and answer sequences? What is the event in the past that is going to explode? But Wilde is not doing it seriously, so that's why this play could be described as burlesquing that genre. It's doing that genre but in a funny manner, because it's over the top. Now we're on to the kinds of comedy and dramatic comedies that Wilde is using to help write his comedy. So these are sort of subgenres of comedy. One of them is the comedy of manners, which has been around since the 18th century, when society started to care deeply about manners. These plays, comedy of manners plays, depict and satirise the manners of contemporary society. And when we say society, we mean upper class society. What you get is witty, cerebral dialogue and clever dramatic functions. So cleverly plotted, clever moments of theatre. The word manner in comedy of manners implies polite and well-bred behaviour, as well as the method in which everyday duties are performed, or a way of speaking. Yes, so manners are often used to distinguish one class from another, because there are different manners in different levels of class. This genre is concerned with satirising a society's manners through sophisticated use of speech and dialogue, creating sharp comedy of the highest wit. What else we find in the comedy of manners? Not all of these are true of Earnest, so that's why it's interesting to look at these and then think which of these he uses, which of them Wilde doesn't. Appearances count for more than true moral character. Artificiality is found in both the characters and the plot. And in classic comedy of manners, the plots revolve around intrigues of lust and greed. And it's worth remembering these started sort of in the from sort of 1660 until the middle of the 18th century, when society was a lot less morally certain, the Victorian, and was happier to have heroes who were quite morally ambiguous. Unlike satire, comedy of manners tends to reward its cleverly unscrupulous characters rather than punish their immorality. The plots of comedy of manners usually concerned illicit love affairs and similarly scandalous matter. And plot would actually be subordinate to creating this sort of brittle atmosphere, witty dialogue, and strong commentary. It says pungent commentary on human foibles, that is, human weaknesses. There's also elements of farce in The Importance of Being Earnest. Farce is an exaggerated form of comic drama. Laughter is raised at the expense of probability. So things that happen are highly improbable but extremely funny. And one of the things that you think of when you think of farce is not just confusing events, but the acceleration. So the event, they get closer together and more crazy events in a farce, often based around mistaken identities. The other thing you often get in farce is one character walking in on other characters in ludicrous or undignified situations. And farce is not that subtle. It can have slapstick and quite high-paced activity on stage. The classic idea of farce is lots of doors opening onto stage and people coming out of doors and slamming doors and going back into other doors. That's what you often think of when you think of farce. So once again, first years you've done this recently, you should have these notes. Second years, this would be good revision practice for you to think about which elements of Earnest are like this, but also how it's not like this in other ways. Because obviously he's mixing these subgenres. Okay, so that's how to think about different genres being used in The Importance of Being Earnest.